welcome to the first ever Teacup Talks. My name is Millie and I'm the Creative Brand Manager here at Teacup. The aim of this series is basically to harness the expertise of our wonderful team at Teacup and our partners, with the hope that by sharing our experiences in relation to well-being, we can help individuals and organisations move one step closer to having a more positive and proactive approach to well-being. So with that all said, I'm going to pass over to Lee. He can introduce himself and then we'll get to answering a few questions. Over to you, Lee.
Hi everybody, I can see quite a few faces on there that I recognise, but obviously I'm Lee Mears. I was a former egg chaser running around the rugby pitch for about 16 years, played for Bath, England and the British and Irish Lions. Second part of my career, became an executive coach and started to work with teams and leaders in how to turn them into corporate athletes. And then got involved with Ed, my fellow co-founder of Teacup, and during a coaching journey, we started to look at the holistic piece of what makes up somebody's wellness, and that was how Teacup was formed. And so I still work as an exec coach. I still work with lots of people all over the country, and up until recently, Europe and the Middle East, but lockdowns changed all of that. So I'm now on screen, but it makes it a lot easier, and I'm at home a lot more, so I'm able to do stuff like this.
Fantastic. Okay, so let's get to the first question. So our first question is, did you know what well-being was when you played rugby?
Oh my goodness.
Big question.
Yeah, I had no idea about wellness whilst playing rugby. The only time I discovered wellness really was actually when I finished my career as a rugby player and I went into the corporate world. And my journey into the corporate world was, I was recommended, I had some exec coaching myself. I was offered the chance to be a coach, and I threw myself into it. As a sportsman, you chuck yourself into whatever you're doing. And I'd gone from this amazing world as a pro sportsman where, and I suppose the best example is as with my wife, I'd say, oh, I'm going to go for a nap now. And as a sportsman, she'd say, you're going for a nap? And you go, yeah, of course, I'm going to have a nap. If I don't sleep, I won't perform. Therefore, I need a nap. Selfish athlete, happy days. And you get into the corporate world and it's sort of like, oh, I'm feeling a bit tired. Can I? Oh, no, I've got to sit at a desk. I can't have a nap. No, I can't. I haven't got food. And it just hit me like an absolute train that when you are in your athlete world, everything from diet, exercise, mental health, all of that type of stuff is covered. And then I came into the corporate world where I felt like I was almost being imprisoned, and then coaching people that were also in that area of, no, I just sit at my desk. It was a massive eye-opener. So I would say as a sportsman, I had no idea about wellness. And then when I came into the corporate world, it started to really, really dawn on me. And I've had to make quite a few adjustments myself.
And what did you do? What were the adjustments you made, knowing that you'd gone, oh, I had all this applied for me. This was really important, this looking after myself, but I didn't recognize it until I was in this corporate environment. Like, what did you do to try and bring across that?
Yeah, so I would say the first sort of 2 or 3 months, I did again, because you're sort of quite warped as an athlete and you chuck yourself into everything. So I was doing my post-grad graduate degree in exec coaching, and I was also obviously starting to generate work. So, and I was actually quite looking forward to not getting the living daylights beaten out of me. So it was quite good to chuck all the sports stuff away and just sit down and go, right, I'm going to nail this work. I'm going to nail this post-grad. And bits started falling off me. Literally, I wasn't feeling great. I wasn't, and I now look back and I realize that all of the stuff around the diet, the exercise and the sleep, as you see with some rugby players, you put on a few kilos, and I was definitely going that way because you just keep eating the same habitually. I'm hungry, I'll eat. I'm hungry, I'll eat. But you're not burning those 2 or 3 or 4. I don't think I ever burnt 4,000 calories. I was too lazy. But you weren't doing that kind of stuff. And then the same thing as every day you turn up to Bath and you would have your training session laid out for you, and you would do a bit of weights or you would do a bit of running, and then you would get home and you would have a nap. And it's all of that kind of stuff that when I entered my office, I just wasn't doing, and it was quite a shock.
Yeah. So the next question, which we'd lined up, was, does corporate life set you up for being well? But from what you've just said is no, essentially. So what, knowing that or being aware of that, what would be your advice to people, or what did you do? Because obviously now you do work in the corporate world. What are your go-tos to try and make sure you do stay healthy and on top of your mental and physical health?
Yeah, I suppose there's two prongs there, and I'm trying always with stuff like this to give some sort of takeaways. One of the things I suppose straight away that I learned is cortisol for me is that whole the sleepy stress, and I would say that that's probably the biggest one. And what is stressful, and you know, we all descend from prehistoric primates, and we've gone through this whole thing of, and I'm not a scientist, but the way it was explained to me, so hopefully I can explain it quite simple to everybody, is that stress was there to keep us alive. Watch out, you could get attacked. Watch out, you could be eaten. Watch out. And we've taken that stress of keeping ourselves alive, and we've now applied that to not getting through our emails in time, or not catching the bus to work. And so that cortisol was key, and it was key playing sport. We used to have to spit in a tube every day so that we could measure our cortisol, because if your cortisol was high, the likeliness of injury was really, really high as well. So I had to go back to my sort of my athlete world and go, actually, if I am really stressed about work, if I am really stressed, if I'm not sleeping, and even to the flip side, which is why I thought it'd be quite relevant, is I did live in this whole just beast yourself, just put yourself in the mill in the morning, hammer yourself in the gym, and that way you can eat what you want. But of course, it started to, when you hammer yourself in the gym, it actually increases your cortisol, and cortisol is evil. So I've started to work myself, but I also encourage others. It's not, you don't have to, because lots of people in the corporate world are driven. They think work hard, exercise hard, and then play hard. Well, actually, sometimes if you're working hard, you cannot exercise hard. And that was a real mindset shift for me of it's movement. Even if I just go for a walk, that is still moving. I don't have to do a 10K run. And the more people I've worked with quite a few people now who actually go, they hate exercise. For me, that's like, oh my God, you hate exercise? Is the best thing in the world. But there are different levels of it, and I've started to realize. So my one big tip is always stand up desk, move around. I suppose as I'm getting older, I go quite a few toilet stops anyway. I know this is being recorded, but
thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, but I'll walk further. So that's the one thing, the one tip that I had to really change is just that movement, because being sedentary, sitting at a desk, it not only affected my mood, it was affecting my health, and it was affecting lots of other areas.
So if my thinking when you're saying that is, so if you find yourself in a stressful situation and you feel like you need to work back to back, how do you have any advice for like how you would manage maybe communicating with other people? Because if you're meant to be in meetings back to back, you can't just not turn up to a meeting. So whether there's anything you can, like, what do you do?
Yeah, well, this
that's not too much of a big question.
This has been quite interesting because obviously everyone's on Zoom now. We're on Zoom and today, so I'll encourage you after this, even if you just get up and have a stretch with me, just put your arms in the air. Come on. There's loads in there. Oh, just a big stretch. Even just stuff like that makes you feel better. How do you feel when you just add some movement in? And so one of the things I started to sort of encourage, and again, this is not always me, I'm not an expert, I just try different things out. I'm a bit of an experimenter, but being on Zoom, we've replaced our office for Teams or for Zoom or for Google Hangouts. and everything's an hour. Every meeting's an hour, and there's meetings that you don't have to have face to face on Zoom, and quite a few people, a bit like people that have got it switched off now, you don't want to be on there all the time. So just say, shall we do this, and walk. And so I've had quite a few walking meetings. It's quite good for creativity. One-to-ones are very good on the walk, especially if you're moving around and you're outside and you're in a nice field. So just try and incorporate movement in sort of as you go, and it will help your wellness no end.
Fantastic. Okay, so third question, which we've covered a little bit, but what are your top tips for better well-being, or what is your top 3?
Oh, crikey. So I would definitely say sleep, and as in at night is the key. So get into a routine. And if you don't sleep well at night, don't worry about having cat naps in the day. Even in Google now, they have pods where you can actually disappear and have a snooze in a pod, because it's that whole flushing of cortisol. If you imagine every time you're in a stressed environment, the cortisol comes. Just having a nap in the day, and I know we don't all have that luxury, but I often sit there and just start to nod off. So I would say, sleep is probably my number 1. Movement, and I have changed. I am no longer sort of the exercise. Yes. I still think it's absolutely key, but for your wellness, I would say movement every day. And then the third one is what you're putting in, the fuel. What are you eating? And I've played with a few diets as I've sort of retired, and I can start to really work out now that some of the foods that I put in make me very, very unproductive. So yeah, it's the key 3 things. And I suppose what encompasses that, and I know it's not a point, because I would say my 3, just to reiterate, were sleep, food, and fuel. But around that is the discipline piece, and we all know, everyone's talks about discipline, but I do honestly think that the more disciplined you are, the more freedom you have. It's not the other way around. Don't see discipline as a suppressor. See it actually as a liberator. The more disciplined you are with your food, the more crap you can eat. Woo! The more disciplined you are with your movement, the longer you can spend working. And the more disciplined you are with sleep, the fresher you'll be. So yeah, if I was going to wrap it up, I'll put it in there.
Nice, very nice. So it's about building awareness as well of those things. So we're keeping this webinar nice and short, and it's 16 minutes past 11. So I'm going to ask people, if they have a question, can they pop it in the chat function, and we'll answer a few questions from everyone who's joined us today.
This is when no one asks.
This is, yeah, this is when, anyone got a question they want to pop in the chat? No one.
There's a few typing, no one's coming.
Oh, okay.
You can speak. Let's have
let's go for a speak, if that's easier. Hand up.
Anyone want to ask?
Oh, here we go. We've got one question now in the chat function from Alec. What's the best habit you've picked up in the last 3 years?
Oh my goodness.
It's a good question.
Great question. I think crikey, there's so many that have really, really had the most impact on me. I would say social media, taking social media off your phone, actually having it just purely as a device that you work with. So I still get my emails and stuff, but if you turn off the notifications and you put your social media in a different folder, because those of you that know me will know that I'm not always the most focused man in the world. And by removing those distractions, you can actually really get in what I call deep work, where you're not, we all get these bing, 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 bing. And if you turn those off, you can actually really, they say every time you get distracted, it takes about 20 minutes to get back into deep work. And so by turning those distractions off, by not having your emails binging. So I would say the best habit I've had is taking away the distractions to be able to focus on what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really important point. Okay, so we've got Jonathan Nee has got his hand up if you'd like to ask a question.
Hi, thanks, Millie. Hi, Lee. So I agree with you with regards to everything you said about self-help, and those three key rules are identical to my values as well. But what about giving us maybe one or two really good ways of helping other people, those closest to us, either in the office or at home? Because helping other people can be often much more complex, or how we help them. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, this is brilliant, and you've got me on something that I'm massively passionate about, and mainly because I had in my life some good coaches and some bad coaches, and the bad coaches were tell, do it this way, and it's very much, and it's something that I'm quite mindful when I'm speaking, is only my opinion, and what you have to do when you're trying to help someone is almost ask them what can they do to help themselves. Because as much as I can tell you what to do and what works for me, you may try it and you'll go, and it doesn't work, and you go, oh, what did that bloke know? He's some short bloke that's quite wired from Bath. And so when you're helping somebody, you really want, you almost want to help them to help themselves rather than tell them what to do or So I would be asking a lot, what are the small things that you could do that would make a difference to you? Because we're all very different. Does that help? I see Jade's asked a good question in the chat, saying with a rugby match, there's a definite winner. How do you define a win at the end of the business day? It's one of my favourites.
Great question.
But a great question. And the way I try and look at it is, am I further forward than when I started? So have I actually achieved something? Am I a step further forward than when I started at the beginning of the day? Obviously, you can get into all your goal setting and stuff like that. But actually, as long as you're moving forward, I would take that as a win, and not being bogged down by your, the mundane tasks. Attack the big things early on, and then do the other stuff around it. But are you stepping forward from where you were?
I think that's a really, really nice point and a good point to end on. Thank you to everyone for your questions. Thank you for joining us today for the first ever Teacup Talks. Thank you, Lee, for being our guest. And if you've enjoyed today, you can follow us on social media. We're on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook, and you can hashtag us at #TeacupTalks and keep your eyes peeled for future talks coming your way. And enjoy the rest of your day.
Yes, thank you very much.